The sole purpose of this video is to provide a basic overview and orientation of your new apparatus. This video is not intended to act as or replace individualized driver-operator training. Individual fire departments may base guidelines, policies, and procedures tailored for best practices. Pierce Manufacturing and Hughes Fire Equipment representatives are not liable for injuries caused from acts resulting from actions inconsistent with the information provided within this video and/or accompanying manuals. Refer to the Operation and Maintenance Manual for complete details relating to the components and features of this apparatus. Only trained personnel should operate this vehicle or perform maintenance. You are responsible for learning how to operate this fire apparatus under all conditions without having to refer to the manual while operating at an emergency incident. This video will discuss types of warnings and caution labels. It is your responsibility to locate and identify each of the labels and understand the importance and associated hazards. Warning labels will point out procedure that must be taken or action that must be avoided to guard against the possibility of serious injury or death. Caution labels will advise you that there is a risk of damage to property if certain precautions are not followed. Continuous training, reviewing of operation and service manuals, developing good standardized practices will assist driver operators with a more complete understanding of the components and operation of this fire apparatus. As the driver operator of this vehicle, you are responsible for understanding the function of each component of the apparatus, maintaining control of the fire apparatus at all times while in operation. Make operational and functional changes while operating at an emergency without having to read operator's instructions or safety warning labels. Operate manual override and emergency shutdown procedures immediately if a component fails to operate properly. Components location may vary with each Pierce fire apparatus. Review the exact location of each component prior to operation. Major inconsistencies between your vehicle and the information contained in this video should be directed to your sales representative. Safe operation of any vehicle is the responsibility of the driver operator. You must learn the location and function of all controls, switches, gauges, valves, inlets, and discharges. Due to a higher center of gravity, heavy trucks have a significantly higher rollover tendency than other types of vehicles. To reduce the risk of rollover, avoid making sharp turns, excessive speed, and avoid abrupt maneuvers. In the event of a rollover crash, an unbelted person is significantly more likely to become injured or die than a person wearing a seatbelt. In the event of a crash, unbuckled occupants can also become a hazard to other occupants, as they may be thrown around inside the cab. Seatbelts are required while in operation. Please refer to your warranty certificates for details and information enclosed in your manuals. Customer-installed equipment must be mounted to withstand road travel and comply with NFPA 1901. Modifications such as drilling holes or welding to structural frame components of the chassis are not permitted. Contact Pierce for instruction and review of non-structural sheet metal or other dissimilar metals for modification. Follow the radio installation guide for further assistance on installing or mounting electronics. Before placing your new apparatus into service, perform a primary inspection of key components of the apparatus, including all fluid levels, anti-lock braking systems, electronic stability control, and automatic traction control. Weigh your apparatus to ensure that it conforms to axle and brake ratings. Never exceed the gross axle rating printed on the label inside the cab. Exceeding these ratings could lead to reduced component life, personal injury, or death. Review the use of auxiliary braking systems, compression brake, exhaust brake, electronic retarder, and hydraulic retarder. Before placing the apparatus in service, refer to the operational maintenance manuals. Information on the operation and maintenance functions for the components such as the pump, pressure governor, and foam systems, along with other options, is provided in either the Pierce manuals and/or other manufacturer support information delivered with the apparatus. If you need more information, please contact Hughes Fire Equipment. Congratulations, Boise City, Idaho, on your new Pierce fire apparatus, job number 34149. Please utilize this 5-digit job number when referencing your apparatus with Hughes Fire Equipment and Pierce Manufacturing. We'll get started on a brief orientation of your new apparatus. Starting just under the front bumper, you'll find 2 open-ended tow hooks on the passenger and driver's side frame rail. Located on the driver's side, recessed in the front bumper, you'll find your electronic siren PA speaker. Moving up onto the body, you'll find your headlight structure housing low and high beam headlights and turn indicators. Moving to the front grille, next to the Pierce logo is where you'll find 2 forward-facing emergency warning lights, and moving up to the very top of the hood is where you'll find your grab handle for tilting the hood. Let's take a look underneath where you'll find those open-ended tow hooks under the front bumper. As we move around to the driver's side front fender, you'll find a side-facing emergency warning light. Moving up onto the top of the fender, you'll find your turn marker light. And as we move to the front section of the hood area is where you'll find your air intake. Let's move back down to the wheel axle area is where you'll find your front wheel. It is a Alcoa wheel and a Michelin tire. Let's move to the back section of the fender areas where you'll find the release mechanism on the passenger and driver side for tilting the hood. As we look just to the step area, you'll find the ultra low sulfur diesel fill cap. It is the silver cap. Just to the right of that in the image, you'll find a blue cap, which is your DEF tank. Moving to the door panel, you'll find all of your warning, caution, and danger labels. As we move also to the area, you'll find LED step lights and perimeter lighting. Just underneath that, you'll find the access panel for your battery box. Let's move into the cab, into the driver's side. Let's first start on the seat where you'll find an air ride seat up and down, and then you'll also find comfort controls on the far right with an orange lever for front to back. As we move to the base of the seat, you'll find this placard manufactured by Pierce. We'll go over that in just a moment, and also your master battery switch. On that yellow placard, you'll find the date of manufacture, the 5-digit job number, gross vehicle weight rating, cold tire inflation, the VIN number, and then all of the fluid capacities and fluid types for your vehicle. Let's take a look back down to the very bottom of the floor of the cab is where you'll find your master battery switch. It's a quarter turn on and a quarter turn to the off. As we look about the left knee of the operator is where you'll find your keyed ignition switch. As we move upward from this location to the dash area, we'll start at the very top with the speed control switch. As we move further down, you'll find the set, coast, and resume accelerate switch for your cruise control. You'll also find your headlights and parking lights, and then just beneath that, you'll find increase, decrease for the cab lights. As we move to the very top section, you'll find this black placard. This is indicating the height of your vehicle, 9 feet 6 inches, the length of the vehicle, 31 feet 4 inches, and a gross vehicle weight rating of 54,600 pounds. If you make any adjustments, please change this placard. Let's move to the dash. On the left, you'll find the transmission temperature, water temperature, and oil pressure. On the right-hand side, you'll find your fuel tank level, DEF level, front and rear air, with your speedometer and tachometer in the center. Diagnostic information displays above the speedometer. Let's move to the right to the dash panel where you'll find your filter minder. This is for the engine air filter. To the right of it, you'll find your automatic traction control switch. Just down from that, you'll find your Allison transmission pad with a digital readout for the position of your transmission. Moving to the right, you'll find some indicator lights, one pump engaged, OK to pump, and OK to pump and roll. Moving just to the right, you'll find the yellow pull to apply your system parking brake and push to release. Further to the right, you'll find your pump operation switches. Moving all the way to the right, you'll find a digital readout in the display area. And then as we move all the way to the far right of the dash area, you'll find a few tally lights. First, do not move your apparatus. You may have a compartment door open or ajar. As we move down, you'll find the OK to engage the high idle and a battery switch. Moving down to the next set of switches, you'll find interaxial differential locks. Also, you'll find your regen switch and also mirror heat.
As we move further to the right, you'll find your seatbelt information, green indicating someone is in the seat, red indicating that they are in the seat and not belted. As we move down, you'll find climate control, and further down into the dash area, you'll find power outlets. These are 12-volt barrel style. Located in the center, you'll find your windows and also auto door locks. Let's move just on top of the dash area where you'll find your monitor for your backup camera system. As we move overhead of the operator position, we'll find a few switches. Let's identify those switches next. First, starting on the left with the emergency master, emergency lights for lower zone and rear zone. In the center, you have a dump valve switch for the rear dump, and then you also have a siren and horn selector switch and a future switch. As we move to the center of the cab, you find a few switches here, first with the rear scene lights, left scene, and right scene. Also some future switches, but to the far right, you'll find your PA speaker and siren head. Let's move exterior now, just under the pump panel area. First, let's start with some drains. On the left-hand side, you'll find color-coded and labeled drains. And then as we move to the right, just under the center section of the pump area is where you'll find a perimeter light. Let's move up now, just above this location, onto the pump panel itself. First, starting on the left with a placard indicating from hail. This will describe the type of pump you have. And then just to the right, you'll find an air inlet. As we move upward from this location, a warning label here regarding extreme pressure. Be cautious when removing caps. They may be under pressure. As we move to the right, you'll find your driver's side auxiliary inlet. It is a 2.5-inch female inlet. Moving to the right, you'll find your auto charger. When plugged into shore power, this will be active and start your charging for your batteries. Just down beneath that, you'll find your main pump drain. And then further to the right in the yellow, you'll find the auto eject for your shoreline inlet. It is a 20 amp plug. Moving up to the very top section, just under the Pierce logo, is where you'll find your 2.5-inch discharge. To the right, large diameter pump intake. And moving up to the very far right is where your fire pump primer is in a push air prime. You will find informational note here on the left of that. For best practices, at least 1,000 RPMs when engaging the fire pump primer. Just a quick warning here, only trained personnel should operate this piece of equipment and only after they received proper training. Let's go back to the items that we talked about. Auto charge, once again, will activate when the shore power has been plugged in. As we move to the left, you'll find the number 1 2.5-inch discharge. And then as we move just to the right of that location, large diameter pump intake and fire pump primer. Let's move up now to the discharges. You'll find the number 1 crosslay and number 2 crosslay, yellow and white in color with gauges. Moving to the right, you'll find the driver's side number 1 discharge, which was that 2.5-inch. And then just beneath it, you'll find the engine cooler. That is a twist, not a pool. Let's move further to the right where we'll find the number 2 passenger side discharge, and then in green, the large diameter passenger side discharge. Further to the right, tank fill and recirculating line and tank to pump. Let's move up to the very top left corner where you'll find your pump discharge and pump intake. These are the 2 master gauges. Across the very top, you'll find switches, first panel light and then future switches that may be added after. In the blue area or module, you'll find your water level indicator. This is for the water tank. Just underneath that, you'll find the vacuum and pressure test gauge ports. They are currently plugged. Also to the right, you'll find a speaker or audible alarm. The outer edge of that bezel does allow you to dampen the sound. And we do have an indicator here, OK to pump when illuminating green. You've properly engaged from the cab. As we move to the pump boss, we'll identify a few items here with your pressure throttle governor in the next set of images. And then to the right, your minimum operation maintenance schedule for 150, 200, and 250 test pressures. Let's start with the pump boss. On the left, if illuminated, it would be yellow. It is a check engine light. In the very center, you'll find a digital readout for the RPMs. And then moving to the right, if illuminated, it would be red, is a stop engine light. Moving further down on the pump boss, you'll find the blue menu button. This allows you to scroll through the various functions of your pump boss. In the center, you'll find diagnostic engine information. And then to the right in red, you'll find an audible silence alarm. This allows you to silence any alarms that may be sounding relating to your pump boss. As we move to the left, you'll find two switches here. First, the pressure and then RPM switch. Those are the two options you have for your pump boss. In the center, you'll find the menu display. Further to the right, you'll find your throttle indicator ready in green. As we move down from that, you'll find a green preset button, allowing you to preset any pressure or RPM modes. Moving down to the very bottom of the pump boss, you'll find your throttle, right to increase, left to decrease, push in the center for idle. Let's move further up onto the pump panel area, starting with the crosslays. Starting on the left, you'll find the number 1 crosslay and number 2 crosslay, yellow and white. Moving to the right, you'll find a black dead lay. This is indicating that it is a not pre-connected hose line. Let's take a look at the body. Up at the very top section, you'll find side-facing scene lights. There is one in the front and one in the rear. Those are your driver's side scene lights. To the very rear section, you'll find an emergency warning light in the upper right-hand corner. You'll also find a mid-marker light located just in front of the rear axle. And in between the axle, you'll find an emergency warning light and then 2 locations for SCBA bottle storage. There are 2 compartments in the front and 1 in the rear. As we look underneath, you'll find your storage locations for your wheel chocks. Let's take a look at some close-ups here. First, starting at the very top, we have a forward side-facing scene light, and then also in the rear, a side-facing scene light, along with an emergency warning light at the very rear section. Let's take a look underneath where you'll find your wheel chocks. These are the 2 storage locations. Moving further to the rear in between the axles, or just in front of the axle, you'll find your marker light. And then as we move in between the 2 axles, that's where you're going to find your SCBA storage and also emergency warning light. Let's take a look at those lights in between the 2 axles. This is the emergency warning light. As we drop this door in the open position, you'll find 2 retaining straps inside for bottle security. As we move to the rear compartment, you'll find LED lighting both in the front and also on the rear. But let's move back to the front compartment where you'll find your auto charge system. When plugged into shore power, this unit will be active. This is your battery maintenance. This will allow you to maintain batteries when plugged into shore power. Let's move to the rear of the apparatus, first starting with your light structure in the very rear. We have a brake, a turn, a reverse, emergency light, and also a reverse light. Down at the very bottom section is where you'll find a rear-facing emergency warning light. We also have in between the ladder area, you'll find 2 cupped switches. These are for your scene lights and also hose bed lights. Down in the lower portion, there's one on the passenger and also on the driver's side. These are the rear-facing tow locations. And as a quick close, this is your rear dump valve and then also your hose bed lights. Let's move upward from this location. We've got a couple warning labels here regarding warning for fall hazard and also the storage location for your long drafting hose. There's one on the driver's side and also on the passenger side. At the very top of the ladder is where you'll find an emergency warning light on the outer edge. On the inside location, you'll find a rear-facing scene light. Let's go back down, take a look at the very bottom section. You can find the 2 rear-facing attachment points, and then we'll talk a little bit about some valves here. We have 2 direct fill tank. They are both 2.5-inch female inlets, ball valve, one on the passenger and one on the driver. As far as the dump valve itself, it is electronic. Located in the very rear section, you also have an intersleeve of that dump chute, and you can see the location of the release for that interchute. Let's move to the right-hand side. Once again, turn, brake, reverse, and emergency warning lights. Just above this, you'll find your long hose storage for your suction hose drafting tubes. As we move to the very top section, in the very center is where you'll find your protected camera, rear facing. As we move to the very top section of your apparatus, you'll find the yellow identifying area for the walking surface, and then also in the very front section is the top fill location for your water tank. Let's now take a look around to the passenger side of the vehicle. Let's start with the same features that are offered on the driver's side, starting at the very top. Let's take a look at the upper passenger side rear corner where you'll find a marker light, emergency warning light, and then also a side-facing scene light, one in the front and also one in the rear. As we look to the compartment layout, both sides, rear section here with roll-up doors, LED lighting inside, and then as we move to the forward section here, you'll find a powered equipment rack which houses your portable water tank. Let's move to the forward section here in between the two axles. Same configuration, emergency warning light, drop down access here for a bottle storage location with retaining straps. As we move to the forward section, I would like to point out this label. Extremely hot diesel exhaust temperatures. Be cautious as to where you park your vehicle. As we move now to the forward section, compartment LED lighting and ventilation within this compartment. And as we move to the forward section, we'll identify a few areas starting at the very top, the bottom of the crosslay area. Starting at the bottom of the crosslay, you'll find a access panel door. This is a pan door with a lift and turn latch. As we move downward, we'll find a warning label here regarding pressure hazard. Caps may be under pressure. Be cautious when removing them. Just to the right, you'll find the green passenger side large diameter discharge. Moving to the right, you'll find your powered equipment rack controls. We'll go over that in just a moment. And then as we move further down at the very bottom section, you'll find your large diameter pump intake, and then also a 2.5-inch passenger side discharge. Across the very bottom, you'll find all of your color-coded and labeled discharge drains. Let's go up now to the very top section where we'll talk a little bit about the crosslays. Obviously the same configuration, number 1 and number 2 crosslay, and then also a dead lay. Once again, there is no pre-connected on the dead lay. Close-ups here of the pan door of the access panel to gain access into the pump area. As we look down to the very bottom, you'll find all of your color-coded discharge drains. I think I've got a little bit better image of that. And then also the 2.5-inch discharge. Let's move to the front section of the cab. First, let's start with the door handle. Once you look at the very top section of the door handle, you'll find a keyed entry point for that lock. And then also you'll find at points of entry for firefighters, grab handles for getting in and out of the cab. We do have LED lighting in the step area and also perimeter lighting. As you move to the top, you'll find a flat mirror and at the bottom a convex mirror. This is the perimeter lighting at the very bottom section, ground lighting. And then as we move upward onto the step area, each one of those steps will have LED lighting to illuminate the step area. As we move inside the cab, you'll get a better vision here of the 2 LED lights illuminating the step, and then also that warning label regarding slip hazard as you climb into the cab. On the very bottom section of the floor area, you will find a foot pedal. This is for your electronic siren on the officer side to engage the siren. As we move now to the seat in the officer side, you'll find storage underneath. It is a quarter turn to gain access into this storage location. Looking to the front section of the dash, you'll find your air conditioning vents on right and left side. And then as we look overhead, you'll find your map lights, storage location, and also your siren control head and PA speaker system. As we move to the exterior front fender, this is the release mechanism for the hood. And then also over the tire, you'll find your turn signal. Once again, Alcoa wheels, Michelin tires. As we move around to the headlight structure, low and high beam headlights and turn marker indication. You also have an extended bumper. Congratulations, Boise City, Idaho, on your new Pierce fire apparatus, job number 34149. If you have any questions regarding any content of this video or any questions regarding your apparatus, please contact your Hughes Fire sales representative. Thank you and congratulations.